One of the fun things about operating in the alternative food sphere is the sort of disingenuous reactions we get from people when we say radical things like, maybe you should eat mostly whole foods. Maybe you should eliminate any food that you would buy at the store that has an ingredients list several items long that requires you to have a chemistry degree or at least a search engine to tell you what it is you're eating. A lot of people can't believe it. There's this prevailing idea out there that no matter what kind of quote-unquote diet you advocate for, that we always run into this, that processed foods are bad. And people have this, can't believe it because they have this idea in their head that if it were bad for you, the government wouldn't allow you to eat it. They wouldn't allow it to be sold. We know it's ridiculous. For a lot of reasons, don't care what your politics are. One of those few things in life that those of us who are remotely aware of things going on can agree on. The government doesn't really care about things like that. Call it money, the influence of money in politics. I don't know. Maybe it's institutional capture if you want to get into some political science about it. But the bottom line is this. They don't care. And a lot of people don't have an easy time accepting that. And it's really interesting when you consider also that the people who are charged with doing the studies that determine whether ingredients in food are good for you or not, whether they're in the regulatory system or in university research centers, their funding almost always comes, at least in some part, from the same companies that they're either supposed to be studying independently or regulating. Which is why new articles like this are interesting. A study has come out showing unequivocally ultra-processed foods are bad for you. I know. I'm as shocked as you are about this revelation. You're probably thinking, yeah, I know they're bad for me. Watch me eat this next steak. I get it. But these kind of stories are important and need to be shared. So let's go to our story, which comes to us from theconversation.com. Published several days ago. I've been sitting on this one for a few days, and they give us this wonderful headline: Ultra-processed foods. Largest ever review shows many ill effects on health. How to understand the evidence. How to understand the evidence. I'm not going to bother with their how to understand the evidence part because it is, as you might expect, it's kind of propaganda. They try to poke holes in the study because they have to report the study. They feel they have a journalistic reason to report the study, but they also have interest in undermining their own study. So we're just going to go over what the data said. The data really is damning for the ultra-processed food industry. Again, this isn't rocket science. Eat the same stuff your ancestors ate before 1920 or so. And 1920 is an important date because that's about the time that industrial seed oil started showing up in all foods in increased rates. And if you ever watch anything about the history of the food system in the United States, and you'll find similar things in other countries as well, that was around the time that industrial food also started happening. Shelf-stable boxed foods, fast food showed up in its earliest forms around that time. All these other things that were vehicles for seed oils. Now, seed oils aren't the only culprit, obviously. There's a whole host of ingredients in processed foods that require a chemistry degree to really know what they are and what it is they do. But this was almost like the inflection point when this stuff started changing. And then we hit a point in the late 1950s and early 1960s where heart disease started becoming a problem. And then the government got involved trying to tell people how to eat, gave the most horrifically bad advice imaginable. And by the late 1970s and early 1980s, obesity was starting to become a very serious problem, first in the U.S. and then in other countries who later adopted the U.S.'s rather dumb nutrition guidelines. Let's take a look at this story. So from the article, quote, ultra-processed foods such as cereals and fizzy drinks have been linked to 32 harmful health effects, according to the largest review of the evidence to date. Globally, 1 in 5 deaths are thought to be due to poor diet, and the role of ultra-processed foods, or UPFs, has attracted much attention in many studies over recent years. UPFs were first defined around 15 years ago to allow researchers to investigate the effect of food processing on health. This new study, called an umbrella review, analyzed many recent studies involving almost 10 million people to bring together much of the available data to give an overall picture of how ultra-processed foods affect our health. The results implicate the consumption of large proportions of ultra-processed foods in a diet with poor health outcomes and early death from a range of conditions, including heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and poor mental health. Diets containing high proportions of ultra-processed foods are undoubtedly bad for your health, and the new study supports the links to a wide variety of diseases. But questions remain about the specific mechanisms by which these foods make us ill. Researchers have proposed several mechanisms over the years. These include poor nutritional quality, as some UPFs can be high in fat, sugar, and salt, low in fiber, and deficient in essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Other mechanisms include a lack of structure and texture, which speeds up eating, increases blood sugar levels, and is less effective at reducing appetite. Much attention has also focused on food additives and other chemicals, either added to food or as contaminants from packaging or the environment. End quote. What they're saying there is pretty straightforward. It's dressed up in highfalutin language, but it's pretty straightforward. A lot of the things that are the problems with the food isn't just all the how bad it is in terms of its nutrition content, but also that it is made ultra palatable in terms of them modifying the texture, making it light up as many of those taste buds as humanly possible, and making it so that then blunts your satisfaction senses in your system and makes it so you just keep eating beyond what is reasonable. We've been saying this stuff in the carnivore and keto sphere for many, many, many years now. Go back to some of the oldest carnivore and keto videos that are online or articles that you can find from 5, 6, 7 years ago in the sort of early days of this sort of sphere of independent reporting. You're going to find us saying the same stuff. It's nice to see that the institutional food system is catching up, even if they then spend some time trying to poke holes into the study by showing flaws in it. Because, of course, if we were to ever meaningfully address the problem of this kind of food, this ultra-processed food in the food system, if we were to ever meaningfully do it, we'd run into some serious problems in the economy. And the almighty dollar takes precedence over your health and mine. That's why probably not much of this is ever going to be taken care of until we, from the bottom up, do something about it. This is why it's important to have this kind of independent reporting and commentary on these things, as well as independent leadership from those trained nutritionists and doctors who have taken on these kind of roles in carnivore and keto and related sorts of communities. We all offer a better way forward for human health and human flourishing than you're ever going to get eating a box of Hamburger Helper or a bag of chips. That's simply the truth. The simpler you eat, the more whole foods you eat, the better your outcomes are going to be. Even if it takes a while for your metabolism to repair itself, given the damage that often happens when you eat this stuff for a good portion of your life. I know, because I've been doing this diet for a long time, and I still got a lot of metabolism to heal before the weight starts to fall off. Such is the state of things. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments, please. If I forget to put a link to this in the comments, please let me know. I'll try to put a link in the comments so you can read this for yourself. But let me know what you think of this in the comments, please, and hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help, as does sharing this on social media. That helps too. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for your time today.